Cheers guys, I'm the Tech Prepper, hope you're all doing well. This is a video I thought I would never make on the channel, and this is a radio I thought I would never buy. In fact, don't go out and buy it just yet. I'm going to tell you why I picked up the Xiegu X6100, what applications I have in mind for it, a whole bunch of things I like about it, and a buttload of stuff I don't like about this radio. So not going to be a review video, it's going to be very much from the perspective of how I like to operate. And for those of you who saw the last video that had a bit of controversy, stick around because this could be the appliance I've been looking for to make amateur radio easy. All right guys, so the big question is, why am I so late to the party on the Xiegu X6100? This is a radio that has been out for about a year. It has made all of the rounds on the hamster YouTube channels with a lot of love-hate sentiments on both sides. So reason number one, I'm not a fan of Chinese radios. I believe that the build quality is inferior when compared to Japanese radios. As a communicator that just wants to focus on communication and does not want to screw around with the hobby, I want a tool that is rugged, robust, and known to work. And for me, I have settled on Yaesu radios for that reason. Chinese radios do not really factor into that equation. Number two, I don't care for the form factor of the 6100, same applies to the IC705. It's like an oversized gaming controller. And for the type of operating I like to do, which is man-pack style operation, I have settled on designs where I can vertically use the radio with frames affixed to the side for added protection and carried within a man-pack with everything wired up, including external power and even solar capabilities. And it just allows me to do things a lot more expedient in the field in terms of getting on the air, breaking down comms, and moving on. Also, that radio will likely fall apart. Again, back to build quality, I do not trust the screen on that. I would never want to drop that, even if it had some level of protected side rails. I think it would be a fail if it were dropped in the field. And then the last one, I set out to do a philosophy at the beginning of this year, which I think I delivered on, called tools, not toys. So I eliminated everything in my arsenal that did not allow me to use radio as a tool. So I got rid of all of the radios for the most part that were different in terms of operating style, because I did not want to have the cognitive overhead of learning how to use the menu system on an ICOM or a Kenwood. Lots of cool radios out there. So by going in this direction of picking another radio with a different interface, I potentially start to impact some of that muscle memory. If we're looking at tools and not toys, literally, this radio actually falls under both. The reason why I'm looking at it is I found an application where it can be used as a tool, but in a lot of cases, there are so many things wrong with it that it still falls under toys. So very conflicted on this video. So let's talk about why I just made the switch, and then we'll go into about 10 or so other reasons that compelled me to finally pull the trigger. All right, folks, so I need to interrupt this video. It's being provided to you ad-free. Thank you for the support of Contingency Medical for making that possible. Now, I've done a couple videos on Contingency Medical in the past and their antibiotic kits. Now, this is a great way to have the antibiotics and medicines you need on hand when disaster strikes, or if you're in the backcountry or just traveling. Now, these are medications that are prescribed to you by a doctor, filled by a pharmacist, shipped to your door. Heck, they even include a fancy field manual to help you diagnose certain conditions and self-medicate. They even have access to telemedicine services so that if you have any questions, you can go ahead and get those questions answered. So big thanks to Contingency Medical. Thanks for not having me run the typical YouTube ads from the YouTube overlords. All right, so let's talk about the one feature that actually compelled me to pull the trigger and kind of forgive everything else. And that is the ability to hack this and install Linux and potentially customize what runs on the Xiegu X6100. Now I have to give a big shout out to Steve, temporarily offline. Check out his channel. He did the seminal work early on figuring out how to hack this device and run Linux. Now, I don't want to get technical in here, but what that will allow me to do potentially is dovetail on the video I did last week and probably run a smaller set of the MCOM Tools platform directly on this radio. And the only thing I'm going to do differently than Steve is that I'm not going to rely on the 4-inch screen on the Xiegu X6100 or an external keyboard. When I first developed Encom Tools, it actually ran on a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. It had a Wi-Fi access point that I configured on it, and I connected to it with my phone. So the plan is to run all of the software still on the Xiegu, but control it with a phone, a tablet, or even a computer by wirelessly connecting to it. So that is the vision, and that is the reason why I spent $650 of my hard-earned cash on Chinese junk. All right, so given my view on the Chinese radios, I also wanted to make sure that beyond me being able to use this as a potential development platform, I wanted to also have another set of features that I found worthwhile. So I may have to read some of my notes here, but the first one here is I like the fact that it runs on an internal battery. The battery is limited, but it gives you the ability to have a small footprint for limited operations. In fact, I did a QSO yesterday with my buddy Mike out in Henderson, Nevada on 5 watts. So basically running on just the internal battery itself. And that was a 220 mile contact using NVIS. Let's check it out. So the internal battery and 5 watts were enough for me to achieve my normal communication goals of targeted regional communication. So boom, it delivered on that one. There is a feature here that I've never had before. I'm not a fan of tuners, mostly because I prefer resonant antennas. This actually has a built-in tuner, and that gives you the ability to have some agility in terms of bands and frequencies that you work if your antenna, for example, is not perfectly resonant on a particular band. I also had picked up, maybe a year and a half ago, the Pactena random wire antenna, and I've only really used this once, and I have never really used it because it requires a tuner. So given the size of this antenna, this may be what I decide to pair with it and use the tuner to do some of my operations in the field. So I have some capabilities I didn't have before because I really don't like carrying a tuner in the field, even though I do have the Xiegu Z817 tuner. All right, so next up is size and weight. I believe this comes in at 850 grams. And in fact, this is a lot smaller than my man pack, even my 818 man pack. And in fact, it fits perfectly in my GoPro case. And we'll dive into this at the end if there's some time. So I have a little bit more flexibility. I could potentially use this as an everyday carry radio, especially when I pair it with this antenna and a little bit of RG316. I see it more as something I may EDC carry in my backpack, but not so much take out into the field. All right, so next up is price. This is actually priced pretty well at $650 US as of December 2022. Prices may vary. But if you compare it to something like the IC705, even though that's in a very different class of radio, I could not justify a $1,300 purchase, but for the feature set and the ability to have this as a platform, $650 actually is pretty accessible and might be a good option for new operators that want to get into low power HF. So one of the big criticisms I get on the channel is that I absolutely love older radios. I prefer radios that have been on the market for multiple decades and are still in active production. A few of the radios I run, like the Yaesu FT857D, which I believe to be the best doomsday prepper radio there is for lots of reasons I've discussed, is unfortunately discontinued. The 6100 is in active production, so it opens up the ability to use this as a standardized platform where you can actually get the radio today and have in your arsenal, or at least in my arsenal or my group's arsenal. All right, the other cool feature about this is that it's a QRP rig and supports 5 watts on the internal battery, but with external power, like the 705, it will do 10 watts. And sometimes that can make a big difference. In fact, I went ahead and made another contact with my buddy Mike out in Henderson, Nevada. This is what it sounded like at 10 watts compared to the 5 watts we showed earlier. Next up is the built-in sound card. One of my biggest complaints about Yaesu is that they're not including a built-in sound card on all of their rigs. So you have to go an additional step and augment it with something like the DigiRig Mobile so that you can interface your radio with the computer. This one already has it built in. In fact, I did some really cool work over the weekend. It took me the whole weekend. And the Xiegu X6100, I broke my rule, is another radio that is going to be 100% supported in my MCOM Tools software project. I was able to literally make it so that I could plug this radio in. MCOM Tools automatically detects that it is a Xiegu radio. It detects the sound card, it detects the serial interface, and it configures all of the software packages. In fact, it even configures and launches rig control on the fly when it's connected so that all the apps can use it right away. And when you unplug it, it actually will shut down the rig control process. This whole happens automatically behind the scenes, but basically the fact that it has the built-in sound card was another compelling feature. Variable power settings, this is actually pretty cool. So for OPSEC, for example, I don't want to blast my signal anywhere. I like the fact that I can adjust the power steps all the way down to, I think it's 100 milliwatts. That's 1/10 of a watt. So the ability to control how much of my RF signal is potentially transmitted was another compelling factor. I think I probably forgot to mention the elephant in the room, and that is the spectrum scope or waterfall, and that is the ability to visualize the amateur radio band or the signals that are being heard across the band, or at least across a range of frequencies. And I have never been a scope kind of guy before. I've been more of a hunt and kind of use the dial to find a frequency that was in use. It is really cool to kind of have a visual picture of what's going on and quickly go over to it. So again, that's not a hard requirement for me. In fact, I don't think it should be taking up real estate on the radio itself. So Yaesu, if you're listening, and if you want to do an update to the Yaesu FT818ND, consider a 20-watt version of that radio, keep all of the physical knobs and dial, but offload the waterfall to something like a phone or tablet via an app so that the operator has those capabilities, but now you don't have a delicate screen on the radio, and you still basically get the value of being able to visualize what's going on the RF spectrum. One other cool thing is the built-in SWR application. I did a field video a couple videos back where I took an antenna I never used, the ATOS 25, and that is a manually tuned antenna. And for me to tune it in the field, I need to bring an analyzer. In fact, this is the analyzer that I brought. It's nice and rugged. It's the Rig Expert Zoom 35, but just as a size comparison, here is the Xiegu X6100 compared to the antenna analyzer. So it's really cool that it's built in. So now I have the ability to deal with my manually tuned antennas in the field. So guys, I think that's it for the other compelling reasons that kind of pushed me to the Xiegu X6100. It has a whole lot of other stuff that is really screwed up with this thing. That's going to probably be subjects for other videos. In fact, other people are talking about all of the nonsense you have to deal with this. But in general, I'm looking this as a different thing. It's not going to change the way that I do man-pack style operations. I'm still going to go down MCOM Tools route the way that I described in the last video. This is something different and something that I want to explore because there's potential for there to be utility here. All right, guys, so with those reasons out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at how I'm initially running this. I actually plan to design and build a suitable bag if this radio turns out to be a viable option. So I'm actually using my GoPro case here. It's actually a perfect fit. And the nice thing about the GoPro case is that it is a hardish clamshell. And this is something that will fit in my bag. And a few things I've done. So number one, the hand mic is nice because it has a detachable RJ45 connector on both sides. And instead of the heavy duty cable it came with, I actually am using a small ribbon cable. This actually came with my Deco X20 mesh wireless kit, and I just decided to use it for this application. So I don't know where you get these, but point is I'm saving a lot of room by going with a flat ribbon RJ45 connector. Inside here I have a small, I'll put these down below, but I like the barrel connectors, and I have an adapter so I can actually take something like a Biowino battery and this barrel connector, connect it up, and I can plug this into the radio and get the full 10-watt output. And I have various sized batteries of the Biowinos. This is a 3 amp hour version. I run the 4.5s, the 6s, and in the shack I run the 12. Now, since this is the delicate radio, I need to figure out something for the screen. I may have someone 3D print something for me, but for starters, I put a dust cover for the BNC. Oh, this is another thing I love. I absolutely love BNC connectors. I have fully transitioned to standardizing on BNC for everything. So all of my coax cable in the field are also BNC. So nice touch for portable operations. When I was exploring the Raspberry Pi for portable field work, and that was a disaster, I killed too many Pis. One of the things I tried to do was provide some level of ingress protection for dust and moisture, and I found some dust covers. So along here, you'll notice that I have actually repurposed those dust covers for all of the ports. I can't find one for the micro SD card, but that's basically just some light initial things I've done to configure this, and this is how I plan to carry this in my everyday bag. So with that said, guys, I know that this video may be a little bit of travesty here, but in all honesty, sometimes you have to look in the utility that something provides, and in this case, the fact that there's potential in me modifying the software is enough for me to forgive a lot of the issues. So with that said, oh, my coffee cup's over here, and we're almost out of coffee. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.